Good day and welcome to National Mortgage Advice. I'm David Martinez, and that man over there is Jeffrey Moore. You can call him at 781-820-1745 for your advice on a mortgage. Good day, Jeff.
Good morning. How are you, David?
I'm doing very well, very well. How about yourself?
I'm excellent. It's unbelievable. Happy to be here.
Yes. Always at this point, right?
Yeah. I did want to bring forward for both of us just some information that is coming on a slow change from the national banking. As you know, National Mortgage Advice specializes in helping the local developer and lender with bridge loans, development loans, very, very fast. We can actually give you $5 million in 10 days as long as you have a $9 million piece of property. We do not have the same criteria as banks and local credit unions. We are private lenders, commonly known as bridge lenders, or hard money lenders. We do short term, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years at the maximum. But changes in the national market because of the pandemic, everybody is a little nervous about what's coming. And the reason that they're nervous about the economics, even though Wall Street is tapped out, I think they're a couple of points below what they were before COVID.
Right.
So there are there are definitely indications that the economy is coming back. However, sections of every economy, whether it's good or bad, always have glitches. And I see the glitch coming with the investment property that the working class have traditionally invested in. I'm not talking about the 3,000 unit apartment house.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm talking about the 2 unit, the 3 unit, where the primary borrower lives in one of them, or the fellow that's got 6 or 7 houses. What's happening there is because of the forbearance, and let's stay with this because I want you to understand there are people that they were out of jobs. So the forbearance, no evictions and no foreclosures, was close to 6 months, and in this state it's still going on until October. But we lend in 43 states, so we're much more aware of different states. But Massachusetts has the no eviction, no foreclosure until October. And what happens is that some of these people legitimately could not pay their rent.
Right.
Which in turn meant the landlord could not pay his mortgage. Or if he did, he was taking it out of his savings for 2, 3, 4 months. But he needed the cash flow of the building. So what I see down the road is that we have a situation that is going to come about in October where they say, okay, the landlord says, finally, I said, pay me the money. Well, David, if you take 5 months at $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, someone has to have $5,000 or $10,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of working class people that have $10,000 sitting around.
No.
You know, even with the $600 a week, they were using that for their family because that was their paycheck. They were out of work.
Right.
Or they went to the Cape. They were irresponsible. You know, who knows the reason why, and that's not for me to say.
Right.
But they can't come up with the $10,000 to pay the landlord for the 5 months they just got free rent. So consequently, the landlord will evict them. Now, if the landlord's got 3 out of 4 of the units, or he's living in a unit, or he's got half of his building, very few landlords have that much equity in their building. I mean, they're in trouble.
Right.
So now we go to the bank. The bank says, hey, Mr. Landlord, you haven't been paying your mortgage, or you've only been paying half your mortgage for 5 months. We need a check. We need a check for $25,000 because remember, there's 3 units, 4 units.
Would banks work with people, do you think, say November 1st, the forbearance ends? Would banks try to work with people? Or, I mean, they're not in the business of trying, right?
They're in the business of protecting their shareholders.
Right.
So can I tell you that every single bank will evict every single landlord? No. There are some that maybe they have other buildings that and they have to cross-collateralize, or they put up one building, or they put it up for sale. There are many ways out of that problem, but I see the problem overall coming. So consequently, landlords and developers, people that will buy those buildings if they say, you know what, I'm 65 years old, I've had it. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to Costa Rica. I'm going to Texas.
I'm outta here.
Vermont. Wherever you're going, you're going. I want to sell my 8 3-families.
Right.
Now I have someone that works for me. She had 4 3-families and a 4-family in East Boston, but she worked since she was she worked since she was 15, but she started buying houses when she was 23.
Wow.
And she's just under 60 now, and she sold everything out and came up to the farmland here way outside of 495, and she's enjoying herself. So it happens. And I think that there's going to be a lot of real estate on the market, and there are going to be some terms that may or may not be palatable.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that creates opportunities.
it creates a lot of opportunity. And frankly, the banks, because they're unstable real estate market that's coming down the road, the reality is that what we have coming down the road is something that people don't know. So the banks are a little reluctant to lend money cash out. So even if you're a great landlord, you've been paying down your bills, you got an $800,000 house,
Mm-hmm.
and now you've only got $300,000 of mortgage, but you're barely able to get by, and your other buildings aren't so lucky. You want to take cash out of that building.
Mm-hmm.
And the banks, frankly, right now, I deal with banks all the time, and they're very reluctant to give anyone cash out. I mean, they'll give you $50,000, $60,000 to do the roof or to paint, but all that's doing is improving their asset.
Right.
They're not going to give you $400,000 or $500,000 so that you have a $700,000 mortgage on a $900,000, $800,000 piece of property. And that's in the best of times, it's worth $800,000 because of the cash flow.
Right. And you have this kind of knowledge because of your relationships with the banks. You have a keen idea of what's happening.
My interest rates at National Mortgage Advice are for commercial investment property, not primary home, but commercial investment property. Right now they're a point over prime, so that's at 4.25, and we go all the way up to I need the money Friday, 12%.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people borrow at the 12% because they're getting such a good deal because of the speed, and we provide the speed. And my investors, they're old. They're like myself,
Yeah.
And we have the cash available to us, and that's what we do for investment.
Right.
We have other investments. However, well, I'll tell you what Jimmy said the other day. Jimmy said to me, he says, Jeff, I said, I'm involved in the stock market. My wife's got some insurance policies. I said, but I like being in the game, and he likes driving by his investment.
He wants to see it. Huh?
He wants to see it.
That's cool.
So he lends anywhere within 2 hours of his house.
Uh-huh.
Because he takes a drive, goes for lunch with the missus, or goes for an ice cream with his grandkids or something. He says, hey, and he checks on the 2-3 families that he's got in Fall River, or he goes by Brockton, and all of a sudden he's got 3 or 4 buildings, commercial buildings. So he likes where he's not the owner, but he's getting the advantage of it because he gets his mortgage.
Right.
Now, that mortgage may only last 6 months because the fellow takes an empty warehouse, he makes it into condos, he fixes it up, and then he comes back to me, and I bring him to a bank for a long-term loan, and Jimmy gets his money out in 6 months to a year. But he likes driving by his investments. And we don't have rigid rules like the bank does.
Right.
I mean, we'll lend to a fellow with 500 credit score, 550 credit score. Well, why have you got such a low score, sir? Well, we have a low score because I just got divorced. I was vindictive. I was a fool. I shouldn't have done what I did. So consequently, my credit went to hell. My wife's credit went to hell, and I still got divorced. So I didn't
Life.
win, I didn't
Life
win that
happens.
one. Life happens.
Life happens.
So But, well, what do you do for a living, sir? Well, for the last 22 years, 25 years, I've been buying property, building, and my largest project was 30 townhouses. My smallest project is individual homes that I built for spec. So this is a fellow with a wide variety of skills,
Right.
and he's proven to be very, very successful, because I can't tell you what his wife walked away with for herself and the kids, but it wasn't minimum wage.
They did okay.
It wasn't minimum wage, and she deserved every nickel.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's a friend.
Yeah.
But life happens, and it's difficult. That's what's going on in that market, and that's who we lend to. We also lend to people that are first time fix and flippers. Excuse me. We also lend to people. I had a fellow call me the other day, and he's assembled 5 different buildings in Boston, which makes he's an assemblage, so that now he has almost a square block over in the Alston, Cambridge area,
That's excellent.
and he has a $40 million project. That's what it's going to cost him, and the sellout is $80 million. So we will assist him getting him started with the deposits and with our legal and political recommendations. And obviously we get an interest rate as an investor, and we'll take a small piece of the equity. But we're able to do that only because now, instead of one of my friends, I'll call up 2 or 3 different guys and say, okay, do you want some of this? Say in a $2 million deal, do you want $250,000? Do you want $500,000? How much of it do you want?
Right.
The lawyer, my friend David's going to assemble the group, so we create an LLC where everybody gets a share, plus everybody gets an interest rate. Meanwhile, the fellow that's assembled the 5 units, the 5 different buildings, into a much larger block, he now has investors with hundreds of years in real estate business. He's not just he doesn't just have a bank.
Right. Yeah, that's true, right? The bank.
Okay, so now he's got people that will not only guide him and make suggestions. Maybe a few of the guys they don't care.
That's true.
Let David and Bobby take care of it. Yeah, they know what they're doing. So when everybody meets once a month or so, they say, hey, how's that project going in Boston? That's a pretty good sized project. I saw they dug the hole for it. I saw they're putting up steel. I saw this. Is this guy paying okay? He says, yeah, the guy's going great. He says, I think we've got us taken out by a bank. Now they'll take us out from the loan, but we'll keep some of the equity. And since the equity it's less than 20% of the equity, we're not going to have to sign for his big bank loan of $40 million. So it's a very convoluted and different game, and it all depends on where you're going. We lend at 75% loan to value. We will sometimes lend as much as 100% loan to value.
Really?
If you have other collateral.
Okay.
I think I explained on one of the other podcasts how that works, but let me just briefly go through it again. If you own, like my friend Jonathan owns a couple houses in Lowell, and he's paid down the mortgage, so he has what's equity. So, excuse me, his houses may be worth $500, but he only owes $150. So even with our conservative numbers, we might say, well, Jonathan, your house is worth $450 on a quick sale. So now he's got what is that, 150 to $200,000, maybe $250,000 in pure equity, being very conservative again. We're comfortable with that, but Jonathan wants to buy a new house for $500,000 and fix it up. So we would normally lend him, okay. We would lend him $400,000, okay,
Wow.
because he's a regular customer and that. But since he's got this other house with $250,000 plus or minus in equity, we'll lend Jonathan the whole purchase price
Wow.
and take
Now-
a second on the property that's got the equity in it.
Right.
And then he wants to fix up. Well, we'll give him $100,000, $150,000 to fix up the purchase. So Jonathan's just bought a $500,000 house, and he's got $150,000 to fix it up, with no money out of his own pocket. Banks aren't going to do that.
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay, they're not going to do that. So we're not as rigid, and our rates versus bank rates are very comparable at the end of the deal. If you take the difference from having a 12% loan for 4 months, 6 months, and not having a partner. Say at the end of the time, at the end of the day, after 6 months, you've redone your building, and you paid us 12% money. Pardon me. And you make $300,000. Well, if I had to take you as a partner, David, because you've got a lot of money, obviously,
Yes, clearly.
and you're known at the bank, and my credit's not so good, we'd get a rate of say 4.25. And at the end of 6 months, I've fixed up the house, everything's fine, and we make $300,000.
Right.
Well, because you're my partner, I only make $150,000.
Right. That's right.
Right? Because you get half, I get half. You're the money, I'm the work. Well, if you work, pardon me, hope you'll cut that out.
Yeah.
If you work with us, what happens is the situation is you make $300,000, but possibly it costs you $20,000 in extra interest for those 6 months, or it cost. Let's just say it cost you $50,000, which is absurd, but as an example, you made $250,000. So I ask you, David, do you want to make $250,000 with no partners and pay 12% for 6 months, or do you want to make $150,000 with a partner and for 6 months, and you're doing the same amount of work? You're in charge.
Yeah.
Which way do you want to do business?
I want to make more.
Well, I was hoping you'd say that. And that's and that's the situation when you've got a competent fellow who either needs the speed, or for whatever reason his credit is not viable at a bank,
Right.
or he doesn't have any cash but he has other buildings and he needs the speed. All I'm asking is just call 781-820-1745. And if I can't help you with a loan, I will help you in the scenario. Because, one, I like doing that. And two, what's the harm? You come back to me in 4 months, 6 months, you tell a friend about me. I've got no reason not to treat you with kindness and compassion. And you're looking at 40 years of knowledge.
Yeah, I was going to say, you do have the experience, done a lot of things, been through a lot of things, been up and down.
Well, I don't know if my audience is old enough to remember Dean Martin, but Dean Martin was famous for saying that experience is the best knowledge. And how do you get experience? Well, you make bad decisions
You
and gain
also
the
known as
knowledge.
live life.
And gain the knowledge,
Yeah, absolutely.
Good decisions come from experience. How do you get experience? You make bad decisions.
Right.
And believe me, at 40 years, I've made some bad decisions. I've made some
happens.
good decisions, but I've made some bad decisions also.
Yeah, it happens, and you're still here. So
I'm still here. Absolutely. Let me explain our access to money. Our access to money is not federal money. What happens with the bank is they go to the federal government and they'll borrow money. They borrow money at what's known as the Fed rate. And as an example, maybe they borrow it at 1%. Well, they turn around, they lend it at 4.25%. And then they tell you there's a 5-year prepayment penalty for investment property. So they've got that loan, and they're making their 3.25 cents, and they can leverage that as a cash flow, and the auditors love it. It's a simple thing in one respect, but they make it very, very complicated. Our access to money is as simple as a phone call. I call up one of the lenders that I work with, one of the private lenders that I work with, and say, "Hi, how you doing, David? Here's the address. Here's what the fellow says his credit is. We've just pulled his credit, so he's telling us the truth. And this is what he wants to do with it. And it's a 3-family. It's a little rundown, but it's in a pretty good neighborhood, transition neighborhood. He wants to put in new bathrooms, new kitchens, sand the floors, paint, new roof, and part of the yard he'll push some of the yard around so he's got 3 off-street parking. And it's in Worcester, or it's in Malden, or it's in Dorchester. One of my pals is doing a lot of work in Dorchester. I think he's lent money to 20 different situations over in Dorchester. So he's a very big player in Dorchester. But he gets his money right out of his children's trust. So he's lending his children's money. So you're getting a lot of real estate experience that you may or may not get at the bank. You're getting the advantage of a fellow who's emotionally involved. He's lending his children's money. He's going to be conservative and make sure that your deal works.
Absolutely.
And you're getting it in 10 to 15 days. So there's a real advantage. And what happens is people get so, when they go, 12%, what are you out of your mind? I'd never pay 12%. You're only paying 12% for 6 months, pal.
Right.
And you don't have a partner. And you've got the experience that we do this every single day. You run into the fact that your mason hasn't shown up yet and your HVAC guy is trying to get it done. Well, tell us what the problem is.
Right.
We have a mason that's ahead of his time over in West Roxbury. Hey, can you give us a few days over here? Bang. They come over there. They build the block chimney. They do you a favor. It's not at a premium price because we know what his prices are. We've used them on 19 houses.
Right.
We turn around. We help you up. Because we want our money back in 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. You are invested seriously.
You know, we're not partners, but we make our money by turning transactions over.
Right.
Okay.
And they got the money quickly too, so that's another huge advantage.
They got the money quickly,
and they're getting advice from you they would not get from a bank in that
Let me tell you something. When we pull a mason who's halfway through a chimney off of a deal in West Roxbury, because he's a little ahead of his game, and he comes over to help you out in Dorchester.
Right.
He has no worries about being paid, none.
Yeah,
because
you've dealt with them before.
We've dealt with them before, and we say we'll take care of it.
Right.
Well, we're holding the money for that project in Dorchester. You know, give us the invoice, fine. We tell the borrower, says we just paid your mason.
Right.
We just paid your mason the $2,800 that you owed him, and nothing slowed down your job. And again, when we lend money to a project, we like driving by the project.
Yeah.
Okay, how's that going?
How often do you check in?
Depending on where it is. I mean, my friend in Dorchester, sometimes it's just a question of taking a left and going around the block, and there's the next deal.
Easy.
Okay, but if I've got 2 houses in Worcester, one house in Salisbury, and another one down in Beverly, well, probably once a week. You know, and make a phone call. They're all personal connections, and there are a lot of fellows that come back to us as bridge lenders that don't need to, but they need the speed. You've got a fellow with his nephew and his son, and they're building 3 houses on a bank loan.
Right.
Now I know them from years ago, and he calls up and says, "Hey, Jeffrey, I need $800,000." I said, "Great, buddy." He says, "What's the problem?" I says, "Why don't you go over to Fred? We put you together with Fred. You've been borrowing money there." He says, "Fred takes 70 days." I go,
That's forever.
"Yeah." He says, "Well, what's the deal?" He says, "I just put down a non-refundable check at an auction because I can steal this house." So I said, "Okay, what's the address? What are you going to do with it? How's your credit still?" And he says, "My credit's 780." I said, "Okay. Have you got the 20% down?" He says, "Well, I'm short because we're building the 3 houses, and I really don't want to take it." He says, "Well, can I put a second on the bank houses?" And they says, "No, they won't let me do that." I said, "Well, where am I going to get the equity to protect us?" I said, "Wait a minute." He says, "Do you own any other property?" He says, "Well, I've got the house down the Cape with my wife." And there's the word, with my wife. I said, "Okay, so
The
you know,
magic word.
She's no, I've met her. She's a lovely lady, and I say, okay, can you get Martha to let us put a lien on that house?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I don't know. I said, let me get back to you tomorrow. And he comes back the next day and he says, the house is worth $700,000. We have a $200,000 mortgage on it. Martha says, as long as it's not, he'll let you put the money on it because she recognized your name, Jeffrey. You can put a mortgage on that, a second mortgage, only for a year. I said, well, that's up to you. He says, I know. I told her. I said, okay, no money down. So I took the equity in the Cape House and the new purchase from the auction. He put no money up. He's got a 780 score, and he's already building 3 houses.
That's crazy.
But we believe, and he believes, that he stole the house at the auction and that he's going to do well with it. So that's something that banks will not normally do.
Right. That's just too risky for them, or too
Right.
convoluted, and too many.
Just too much hair on it.
Yeah.
Now, in the few minutes I've got left, I want to be able to explain what the basic questions are to someone looking for a hard money loan. It's what's the property value in 60 days? What would you sell it for if you had to?
Mm-hmm.
What's your current mortgage and what's your credit at this time?
Right.
When banks say nay. When banks say nay, we say yay. Okay. We're going to do a podcast that we'll do on senior program that we have, but as far as this is concerned, I believe we're near finished, as they say.
Yeah. Well, how do people reach out to you, and what kind of information are you looking for when you get a call from someone that you don't know later today? What do you need from them?
I need to know they can go on the website and fill in a commercial application, or they call me, and I need to know their name, the property address. It'd be nice if they had the taxes, but not necessary. Real basic, their name, the property address. Do they own it? Do they want to buy it? If they want to buy it, I need a purchase and sale.
Right.
If they own it, then now it'd be nice to have the taxes, how much, the tax bill.
Right.
And what do you want to do with it? The story. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. My Aunt Mary left it to me. I loved her very much. My parents, I have to put her in a nursing home. I don't want to.
Yeah.
My wife thinks we should buy this 3-family. Whatever it is, I listen to the story and I try and help them achieve their goals. Because, frankly, I like doing it, and
You're good at
that's
it.
the business.
Yeah, and you're good at it. You
Well, I like doing it.
you have a really good passion for it too. And the other thing is you have the passion to hear the story. Where maybe a bank, they're like you said, they're looking out for their investors. And,
They're looking out for themselves, David.
Well, yeah, and you have investors too. I mean,
I have investors
and
too. I mean, we are looking out for ourselves, but we don't make any bones about it. The guy sitting behind the desk in a corporation, he's trying to keep his job because
Yeah.
every Friday he gets paid.
That's
Okay,
right.
my guys don't get paid every Friday.
Right.
We're still, we're old.
Yeah, but you see
everybody's
the
either got white hair or no hair. Okay,
I hear you.
and they're lending their children's money.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I know. I hear you, but I mean, you're more willing to listen to anybody's individual story, though, and that helps. That makes them feel like they're being listened to, which is key. So, how do people reach out to you?
They reach out to me either on the website, National Mortgage Advice, or nmadvice.com. There's an application there where we're fixing up the website so that more information can be pulled down.
Excellent.
Or it's 781-820-1745.
And they talk to you. They get
They
directly
talk
to the
me.
guy.
Yeah, that's my phone number.
Yeah.
Okay, so anytime, I normally have a breakfast meeting from 7 o'clock until 8, so I'm available somewhere around 8:15.
Perfect.
And please, leave a message, or that's it. My text, I know the under 40 set loves to live on text, but my text does not ring through to my phone call.
Right.
And I'm on the phone 4,000 minutes a month.
You're on the phone a lot. That's how you live. That's how you
That's
make
how
your money.
I live. So you're calling me. This is not a large corporation where we'll
Yeah.
we'll put you through to loan officer number 62.
Yeah, and you get stuck in someone's voicemail for 2 weeks.
Right.
So give Jeffrey Moore a call, National Mortgage Advice, 781-820-1745. Jeffrey, thanks so much.
Thank you, David. I appreciate being able to come in.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.